All right, I have to be honest with you all. I just didn't know about this. I don't know how I didn't know about it, but I just didn't. So let's talk about the fact that auras from items stack per item, and that always kind of makes sense. But then you get that aura level per item. And I got a pretty simple little test here to show you how it works. And for the people who already understood this, you know, just enjoy me teaching to myself that this thing exists. But for people who don't understand it, let me explain. So when Diablo 2 Resurrected came out and they inevitably released the first patch, they made a pretty big change to how Holy Fire, Holy Shock, and Holy Freeze auras were going to work. The biggest thing was that it was going to increase your damage based on how close to the monster that you were. So if you're looking at this tooltip, a level 3 Holy Fire actually only adds 2 to 5 fire radial damage, so the damage that ticks in the area around you. But what the tooltip now shows you is the maximum damage that it will do if you are at minimum range to the monster. So if you're literally right on top of the monster, you're actually going to be able to do a maximum damage of 10 damage if you were to roll maximum damage every single time. Now, if you remember when they first released this, all of a sudden you had like dual dragon handed justice paladins just charging around killing high level cows, and it was ridiculous, right? Everybody was up in arms. Then they nerfed it, and then everybody said, hey, why'd you nerf it? And then they buffed it again. And while they landed somewhere in the middle with the synergies, they left that damage component in. If you're at minimum distance, you're gonna get double the radial damage. Now, before we talk about what the bug is, and this bug has existed since LOD, and again, I just didn't know about it. Let's talk about what the desired impact was. The idea was if you were using one of these holy damage auras, it was giving you some AoE damage clear for what was basically a melee build. You would use this with the Auradin, you'd add some elemental damage to your attack, but the AoE pulse was supposed to help butter up monsters before you had to come hit them, effectively giving you AoE damage. Now here's the problem that I'm gonna go show you. I'm gonna run out into the Bloodmoor. This is normal difficulty on players 8. So I'm gonna go find a zombie and show you how long it takes to kill them, hopefully rolling max damage every time. But just keep in mind, I'm doing between 2 and 10 damage per tick when I have the aura up. All right, so we have some zombies here. Again, we're on players 8 difficulty. You can't see it behind me in my big dumb head, but we're on players 8 difficulty. It means that these zombies have on average 40 hit points. So I'm just gonna walk up, I'm gonna turn on Holy Fire Aura and let's see how long it takes me to kill one. So we're at minimum range, I have Holy Fire Aura up, 1 tick, 2 tick. They're gonna heal a little bit while this happens. 3 ticks, 4 ticks, 5 ticks, 6, 7, basically 7, right? So keep in mind, they're gonna be healing while it happens, but that was basically 7 ticks. So if I'm doing between 2 and 10 damage at minimum range to the monster, that means that on average, I'm doing 6 damage. So if it took me 7 ticks to kill that zombie at on average 6 damage, it means that I dealt about 42 damage. So let's go look at a zombie stats and see if that makes sense. So here we're on normal difficulty. We have a players 8 zombie on single player in the Bloodmoor. And when we look at their stats, they have on average 40 hit points. So we're kind of right on the money, right? If they had average hit points, we dealt average damage. It took 7 ticks to kill them. Bada bing, bada boom. You got 42 life. You got a dead zombie. Makes sense. Now let's talk about how stacking an aura on an item is supposed to work. So what you're looking at is a Hand of Justice, a dragon, and a dragon. I've drastically modified these items, so all they have are the based rune stats that they normally have because I can't remove those. And I just took the level 1 Holy Fire, reduced it all the way down to level 1 just to be able to do this test to try to minimize variables. If you look at it, I take this armor, I put on a level 1 Holy Fire Aura, and let's see how much fire damage we gain on 2 to 7. We gain 6 to 18 damage, and that follows up with what a level 1 Holy Fire Aura should give us. Now I'm gonna put on the Dragon Shield so we can see what a level 2 Holy Fire damage is supposed to add to my melee hit. So at level 2, I should be gaining 9 to 24. So that should put me at 11 to 29. And let's see. Easy as pie. Reason why I'm doing it without the weapon is because obviously the weapon also has damage on it, and then we have a bunch of points into the stats, but when I put on a level 3, the fire damage that we gain is that 12 to 30. Here's the problem. When you stack these auras, the radial damage should also be a level 3 Holy Fire's radial damage. So looking at the skill, it should be doing 2 to 10 damage. So that's 10 at maximum if I'm right up against the monster, just like the skill set. So I have 1 level 1, 1 level 1, 1 level 1. It should add the aura levels together and then apply them as a single source. Let's walk up to that same zombie outside and see how long it takes me to kill it without running Holy Fire Aura myself, but instead just using the auras from the items. So we have our zombie here, and I'm gonna go ahead and put everything on, and 1, 2, 3. Well, let's not get too excited, right? What if I rolled max damage every single time? You know, 10 would be the maximum damage from the skill level, times 3, so that would be 30 damage. Let's go look at what the minimum life of a zombie would be on players 8. So if a base zombie in normal difficulty in the Bloodmoor rolls between 7 to 12 hit points, and players 8 difficulty will take your base life and multiply it by 4.5, the minimum life a zombie can have on players 8 difficulty is 31.5 hit points. Even if you round down, the minimum life a zombie could have is 31 hit points. So if our maximum damage from a level 3 Holy Fire, even at 0 radius, so maximum damage, getting the full double effect, in 3 ticks I can only do a maximum of 10 damage. Well, that's impossible, right? Here's why. Now, there's a whole history of bugs from LOD that we're not going to go over, so just keep in mind we're not talking about like aura stacking with your mercenary, where you could swap gear and get infinite stacks of an aura and then walk outside and one-shot stuff. We're looking at specifically this part about how aura stacking works and a known bug that was in LOD. Furthermore, when multiple items supplying the same aura are equipped, not only is the aura level supplied at the combined total, but the radial damage of the aura is supplied at that combined level total per item equipped. Let me just say that in a little bit easier layman's terms. When you equip multiple items that apply either Holy Freeze, Holy Fire, or Holy Lightning, you add the levels together. So this would be a level 3 Holy Fire aura, and then the radial damage component, so the AoE damage component on the skill, is applied at level 3, in our example, per item equipped. So since we have 3 items all supplying a level 1 Holy Fire aura, that is a level 3 Holy Fire aura's radial damage applied for 1, 2, 3 times the amount of damage. So when we think about it that way, the maximum damage that we could output from this at level 3 Holy Fire would be 30 damage per tick. And in that zombie that we just killed, if you watched how much damage we were doing per tick, you noticed that while it took 3 ticks to kill him, they were basically dead after the second one. So if we were doing the average damage of this new equation, right? So a maximum of 10 radial damage per item equipped being 30, with a minimum damage being 2, 4 to 30 is 17. 17 damage in 3 ticks will kill your average zombie every single time. 3 ticks would be doing 51 damage on average. So since we only barely needed a 3rd tick to kill this zombie, it seems pretty conclusive that not only are you getting the combined level of the Holy Fire aura, but radial damage is being applied per item that we throw on. We went and tested with just 2 items, and the numbers that we got for kill speed with the 2 items represented a 2 times radial damage as opposed to just getting the level 2 Holy Fire aura. Turns out the bug is still there. Now, there was a little bit of confusion that I'd like to just try to clear up, because people were kind of referring to the damage as exponential, but it's because you have like a 3 times aura level and then 3 times that. It looks like it's exponential, but in reality, that's not really how it works out. Just to quickly clarify, the damage that the skill does per level is not linear. Each stage of levels will give you a different amount of bonus damage. So you take the combined level, you find out what the level scaling of damage is, you take that number, and then you multiply that by 3. So it isn't aura level times 3 times 3. It is final aura level damage value multiplied by 3. What does this mean? One part, this is probably why Dual Dragon Hand of Justice feels a lot better than Dual Dream when you're trying to abuse this radial damage, because Dual Dream only gets you a ×2 modifier on it, but Hand of Justice with Dual Dragon gets you a 3 times modifier on it. The other thing too, the higher the aura level that you get, the farther the radius is. And then at a certain point on your screen, at a level 44 Holy Fire aura, the halfway point of your total radius is actually the edge of the screen. So monsters, even at the edge of your screens, are taking 1.5 times the total damage, and then they're getting hit by 3 items all supplying that 1.5 times damage. When you're up against a monster in close range, you're getting 2 times the damage, multiplied by your 3 items, you're getting 6 times the damage, etc., etc. So that's cool. It's cool. I really did not know this Up until this point, I was generally confused what people were talking about. At one point, I was checking out running my own Holy Fire Aura. I guess I'll just explain how that works too. So when you run your own Holy Fire Aura, the damage of your Holy Fire Aura will also apply at the same time as your items. So let's say you also had a level 44 Holy Fire Aura on. That means that with Dual Dragon and Hand of Justice giving you a level 44 Holy Fire Aura times 3 for the radial damage, and then you run your Holy Fire Aura, that means you would have 4 sets of level 44 Holy Fire Aura ticking on a monster. To answer the question, is that better than running Conviction? It depends on how much minus resistance you have on your gear and how much resistance the monster has. Theoretically, if the monster had no resistance to fire and the facets and the rest of your gear already reducing down to minus 100, then yes, running your own Holy Fire Aura is strictly better than running the Conviction Aura, but that number and that scale depends on per resistance and per monster basis to basis. On average, running Conviction Aura at max level of the minus 150 resistance is almost always going to be better than running the Holy Fire Aura, but that comes down to what you're farming and what kind of gear you have on, and it's not something that one person's answer can just apply to everything. What about Dual Dream? It's still really good. I mean, like, it is just really good. The lightning damage is really good. It's not going to be bad. I think realistically, for people who are just trying to farm on a slightly lower player count, because keep this in mind, you don't get the elemental damage on your weapon. It doesn't triple the elemental damage on your weapon at all. And if you run your Holy Fire Aura and you have this gear on, you don't gain more elemental damage on your weapon. And I'll just show that to you right now. This is me without my Holy Fire on, and then that's me with my Holy Fire on and the 3 pieces of gear equipped. So you don't triple up on this portion of the damage. It is strictly the radial damage of like the little pulse that comes out of you every 2 seconds. That's one of the reasons why running Dual Dream is really good, because it adds so much damage to your base melee weapon that your zeal is actually still a major constituent part of how much damage you're outputting. So again, it comes down to what you're farming, it comes down to what gear you have, it comes down to the scenario that you find yourself in. I didn't believe it. I'll be honest with you. I didn't believe that this was what was happening. At one point, I was testing Dual Dream with my own Holy Shock Aura, and I didn't account for how much variance there is in the lightning damage. So it kind of just looked like I was getting twice the kill speed of running my own Holy Shock Aura. I don't really know. That was just hard to test. But yeah, looks like it stacks. Let me know what you think. Honestly, it's such a long-standing bug now that I understand how long this has been in the game. And the fact that it was actually fixed at one point and then it was reintroduced. But it is a holdover from LOD that I'm kind of okay with it just staying in the game. My only issue with it staying in the game is that it causes those issues that we saw back when they buffed Holy Fire. It was like all of a sudden we were getting way too much damage out of it, and people were confused as to what was happening, myself included. And I thought I'd come up with an explanation, but it turns out that also this item stacking was part of the problem. So it kind of limits design space for Diablo 2. It makes it more difficult to balance things in the future, makes it harder to implement new rune words possibly in the next season. It just in general means that you have to account for something that really isn't supposed to be working that way. But I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. Please let me know what you think. I hope that this helps clear up some of the confusion or at least validate some people, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.